My best friend took my husband. 6 years later, she was stunned by my new life. 6 years after stealing my husband, Zoe whispered, "Can you help me?" Her voice came through a DM at 5:42 a.m., the hour I scale bread loaves and answer wholesale emails for the bakery I built from a thrifted mixer and a stack of secondhand sheet pans. Amaya, 35, flour under my nails and a line out the door on Saturdays. The kind of steady life no one posts like a yacht, but everyone tastes and remembers. I had a new lease, a staff of 4, a permit framed by the register, and a piece I didn't risk for people who wanted to see me beg. I stared at her avatar, sun hat, tan lines, that chin she jutted when she won, and thought about inventory orders, payroll Friday, and the PDA raffle muffins with my logo on the flyer. Why? I typed, then erased it. Boundaries work best unsent. The morning crew clanged trays. Espresso hissed. My phone buzzed again. "Please," she wrote. "It's urgent. Just $5,000, a bridge." $5,000 was 4 weeks of a part-timer's hours, 2 pallets of flour, and the fence repair behind the alley. It was also the price of a memory I refused to buy again. I wiped my hands, slid the phone face down, and told myself this. I have a rule. No ghosts in my kitchen. But ghosts do not respect doors. I lifted the phone, because curiosity is a tendon that aches when ignored, and watched a third message arrive with a street address I knew too well. It was the cul-de-sac where I once lived with Daniel and her. I texted back one word, then grabbed my keys and apron. When Zoe and I met during freshman orientation when we both got lost trying to find the registrar. She laughed first. I apologized first, and we fused over cheap coffee and shared notes. She taught me eyeliner. I taught her spreadsheets. We promised the kind of forever that sounds like a dare. Daniel arrived senior year with a camera and a lazy smile. He filmed campus concerts and turned silence into charm. I introduced them, then married him 2 years later under string lights and a borrowed veil, with Zoe fixing my hairpins and saying, "Don't cry, or I'll cry." The night they crossed the line, Zoe texted, "Are you okay? Daniel says you're overwhelmed." The next morning, his toothbrush was missing and her car was in our driveway, the kind of smug that fits inside a coffee mug captioned "Blessed." 6 months later, a divorce decree slid across a courthouse desk while my best friend posted "Found my person" with a filtered sunrise. Last week, she posted an anniversary boomerang of champagne flutes. Clink, clink, clink. My name still tagged in the background from when we were 3 instead of 2 + 1 exile. That's the fresh wound, not the cruelty, but the careless reuse of a life I built and they borrowed like a cardigan. It scratches when it heals. I keep screenshots in a folder labeled tax receipts so I won't stare. I learned to count proof, not tears. Her address pulled me like tide, but I planned my route anyway. Year 1 tasted like aluminum. Beer cans in boxes, the metal of apartment blinds, the tang of coins counted to buy gas. I left the house with 2 suitcases and a stand mixer my Aunt Rosa insisted I take. Never leave your tools, Amija. Divorce is paperwork sharpened to a knife. Case number 19 to 2437. Filing fee $278. My name split from is like a wishbone that didn't break clean. People chose sides by doing nothing. Zoe's friends stopped liking my posts. Mutuals said, "Oh, wow," and then vanished. Daniel said, "It's not what you think," which is what people say when it's exactly what you think. I slept on Aunt Rosa's pullout, rolling over receipts at 2 a.m., calculating how many cupcakes make rent. Co-parenting wasn't my road. No kids, but the city itself felt like custody. Who gets the brunch place? Who keeps the park route? Who survives Sunday mornings? I learned new paths. I started selling cinnamon rolls from a Facebook group. 12 for $24, porch pickup only. The first order came from a teacher named Darlene who tipped $5 and said, "You could do this for real." Aunt Rosa pressed my shoulders like prayer and said, "Let's try and see." The first cottage license, the first health inspection, the first farmer's market slot with my hand-painted sign. Small miracles stitched to exhaustion. When my car died, I cried, then asked to borrow roses. Shame is heavy, but lighter when you name it in a kitchen. I thought I'd escaped them, until Zoe's name re-entered my ledger. The split hadn't been spontaneous, it had choreography. Before Daniel left, Zoe started sending concerned friend texts. "Are you eating? He seems distant." I saw him at a bar, maybe talk? While also forwarding me screenshots of messages allegedly from me to Daniel, desperate and sniping, that I never wrote. The spelling was mine, the punctuation wasn't. I use dashes, not ellipses that drool. I'd ask Daniel, "Did you get my text?" And he'd shrug. "Let's not fight." Like I'd already fought. It was triangulation by a master of angles. Later, I found a selfie of Zoe in my bathroom. Timestamped the same night. I thought she was homesick. Her caption read, "Be your own upgrade." That became a refrain. I doubted my instincts until I stopped consuming her feed like poison disguised as dessert. Patterns surfaced when I stepped back. Late-night messages from me that landed when I was kneading dough, staged coincidences. A DM from a mutual saying she'd heard I'd cheated first. News to me. I began to save everything. Dates, usernames, image metadata. I didn't yet know the how, just sensed the hand. What made it worse wasn't just betrayal. It was the laziness of it. How little truth they needed to rupture what I thought was invincible. I promised myself proof, and proof has a way of appearing. When the apartment complex raised rent by $140, I moved into a studio with a galley kitchen and a fridge that hummed like a tired bee. The Corolla died on a Wednesday. The mechanic wrote, "Beyond economical repair," which felt like a verdict on more than a car. I asked Aunt Rosa for a loan, humiliation filing itself under necessary. She didn't blink. "You'll pay me back in pastries and paperwork," she said, sliding a folder toward me labeled permits. So I pivoted. Night classes on food safety at the community college, a ServSafe card laminated with my shaky smile, a spreadsheet tracking costs down to the cent for yeast and sugar. I taped a list above the sink. Sleep, need, deliver, repeat. Orders trickled into a stream. A nurse named Kinsey pre-ordered lemon bars every Friday. A contractor asked for muffins for his crew and left a stack of business cards by my cash box. My hands ached in new, meaningful ways. The ache whispered, "Forward." When Daniel appeared at the farmer's market, he hovered near the samples. "Looks good," he said to the table, not me. "We're doing okay," he added, meaning him and Zoe, the we that used to be me and him. I smiled like a cashier. I offered him a butter roll. I didn't ask anything. Quiet is also a boundary. 6 years later, quiet met a doorbell I never expected to answer. The bakery's brick-and-mortar smelled like vanilla and mop water, a perfume only I adored. My mentor, Mr. Sue, owner of the faux shop next door, taught me to order in bulk without sounding small. "Buy like you'll be here next year," he said. We shared dumpsters and gossip. He gave me jasmine tea when my throat went hoarse. Routines sprouted. Pre-dawn mixing, mid-morning deliveries, afternoon email tree-off, payroll on the 1st and 15th. I swapped doom-scrolling Zoe for spreadsheets and seasonal specials. Pear cardamom in September, cranberry orange in December, fragile hand pies in June. Customers learned my name, then my story, then stopped asking about it because I stopped offering pain for free. I plastered the kitchen with SOPs, temperature logs, glove reminders, allergen charts, because competence is a kind of armor. My apron pocket kept a stack of punch cards and a single sticky note that read, "Do not trade peace for proof of growth." I dated someone briefly, a paramedic with kind hands. We fizzled with gratitude, not drama. On Sundays, Aunt Rosa came by to roll tamales on the steel table, turning my shop into family again. I thought that was the whole plot. Work, rest, repeat, until the PDA emailed about a fall fundraiser and attached a flyer that made my stomach lurch. At the bottom, in tiny print, was a sponsor, Z&D Events, LLC. I recognized the address on their invoice before I read the total. The PDA treasurer forwarded me the vendor packet because I'd asked about table fees. Attached was an invoice from Z&D Events for staging and lighting. Invoice number 2719, balance $1,880, remit to AP. Oh, box I recognized. The same one printed on my old internet bill from the house Daniel and I shared. The email domain on the signature, admin@ZendalCreative.com. Looked slick until I checked the registry. Created 3 months ago. Owner information private. Contact phone ending in 0731, which used to be Daniel's birthday in his passwords. The address listed for warehouse was a rented McMansion's garage in a cul-de-sac with a fountain that never worked right. My jaw clenched in that old way. the tendon like piano wire. A rumor circled the bake line. Someone told Kinsey that Zoe had been asking around for short-term capital and offering sponsorship perks that didn't exist yet. I told myself not to care, then cared anyway because the PDA is where our town launders respectability. I decided to go quiet and methodical. Aunt Rosa poured chamomile tea into a paper cup and said, "You decide how deep to dig. But if you dig, wear gloves." I made a list on the back of a flower invoice. Domain lookup, county filings, public liens, IP check. The first ping matched an IP I knew better than my own. I ran the Zendel Creative contact form and the PDA proposal PDF through a metadata checker. The author on the PDF said Zoe M. Fine, but the last saved location wasn't fine/users/Daniel/desktop/Zodec Q3/. I sat very still. Next, I checked a public record site and found a UCC lien filed against Z&D Events by a payday lender, recorded 8 months ago for $12,500 at 36% APR. The borrower listed Daniel Morales with a co-signer Zoe Marin, but the signature blocks looked cowardly. Daniel's was a streak, Zoe's was neat. Then I found a stranger thing. A complaint in small claims court naming Z&D Events for non-payment of $2,140 to a photographer, with 3 screenshots attached. One screenshot showed a Venmo request Zoe sent using a profile photo cropped from my old Instagram, the one where I held a tray of macarons. Same tray, my arm, my ring removed with sloppy clone stamping. This wasn't just petty, it was strategic mimicry, borrow my steady brand to borrow other people's patience. I scrolled through their Etsy storefront, which claimed handmade dessert tables, and found a banner photo that was mine, lifted from a 2019 Farmers Market album. Comments mentioned no-shows, last-minute reschedules, and a phone, always going straight to voicemail. The what was clear, dead, fakery, my images misused to prop a hollow thing. The why still hid. I needed a voice on tape before confronting what hid in plain sight. I called lawyer Priya, who once traded my croissants for a 30-minute consult when I negotiated my lease. Documentation first, confrontation last, she said. Collect like you expect a judge to read it. So I gathered screenshots with timestamps, WHOS records with creation dates, lien filings with instrument numbers, the small claims docket number 25SC 1174, and a screen recording of Zoe's Etsy banner next to my 2019 photo with matching crumbs on the table. I also used a call recording app, legal in our one-party consent state, and texted Zoe, "Meet? Bakery, Tuesday, 10 a.m. I'll listen." She replied in seconds, "Bless you. I knew you were still kind." I prepped the front table with 2 waters and a tray of day-olds I wouldn't offer. Aunt Rosa watched my face and said, "Mercy is a knife too. Hold the handle." I printed a single-page agenda with bullet points, loan ask, use of images, PDA contract, path forward. I decided not to warn Daniel. He'd weaponize confusion like always. My moral dilemma thrummed like a fridge: protect my peace and ignore her, or risk the tremor of reopening the old fault line to shut a door completely. I chose procedure. Procedure is how you light a room before entering it. Zoe arrived early, and she brought someone I didn't expect to see. Daniel pushed in behind her, cap low, sunglasses indoors, the uniform of someone who wants to be invisible but noticed. "She didn't want to come alone," he said, not meeting my eyes. "We're in a bind." Zoe dove into a monologue before I could answer. "We've had a rough patch, cash flow hiccup, total vendor drama, but we're scaling. Maya, this is just a bridge." She reached for the day-olds. I moved the tray slightly left. "I know you've got it," she said, voice soft with practiced intimacy. "You always had it. That's why I worry. All that stress." I clicked the recorder app under the table. "You used my photos," I said. "Silence is a blade." Zoe blinked, then laughed like I'd made a silly math error. "Babe, it's inspiration," she said. "You should be flattered." Daniel exhaled through his nose. "Can we not do this?" he murmured. "It's for the school." I almost folded. The old muscle memory of keeping arguments smooth twitched alive, my jaw loosened. Then Aunt Rosa stepped from the kitchen, wiped her hands, and placed a glass of water in front of me, not them. 10 minutes, she said to me, ignoring them. "Remember your list." Zoe leaned in and whispered a threat that froze my spine cold. If you don't help, I'll tell people you stalked us, Zoe hissed, breath sugared with my own cinnamon. I'll say you copied us. She straightened, glossy smile reattached. Anyway, $5,000. I slid a folder across the table. Inside, printed screenshots, highlighted liens, the small claims complaint, and 2 side-by-sides of my photo and their Etsy banner with identical smears of ganache. We're going to resolve this in public, I said. PDA meeting Thursday, school auditorium. You'll refund your deposit and withdraw as vendor. Daniel finally looked at me then, pupils shrinking. You wouldn't, he said, meaning I might. Or, I added, we mediate with the PDA and make a plan that doesn't steal. I CC'd lawyer Priya and the PDA president on an email while they watched, typing the subject line slowly, Z&D events. Use of proprietary images and contract concerns. The trap wasn't punishment. It was a lit room with witnesses, where lies stutter. Zoe's face twitched. This is harassment, she said, too loud. A mom at the corner table glanced over, then recognized Daniel and whispered to her latte. I invited them to Thursday's meeting, attached my proof, and printed copies for the board. Zoe said one word as she stood, and it detonated the room softly. Pregnant, she said, palm flat on her abdomen, eyes wet as faucets. The room tilted. Old ache, new angle. I let air in slow. Congratulations, I said evenly. She watched my face for collapse. None arrived. We can't afford a scandal, she added. Who could? I opened my laptop, connected it to the bakery TV, and mirrored the screen. Across glossy pastries appeared a clean slide deck. Timestamps, registry dates, lien numbers, Venmo screenshots, my old Instagram next to their Etsy banner, and, finally, the kicker, an email from admin at @ZendelCreative.com to the PDA requesting they feature Maya's Bakery as our partner since we originated most of her recipes. Signed, Zoe and Daniel. Daniel flinched. Why? I asked last. Why the mimicry? Why the borrow and lie? Zoe's mask cracked. Because you make boring look like winning, she snapped. Because you kept showing up. Because I thought you'd collapse without me and then. She stopped. Daniel muttered. We thought. The auditorium on Thursday would be worse for them, but this was enough to pry off the facade. You'll issue refunds and remove the images, I said. You'll withdraw from the PDA contract. You'll send written apologies. Zoe's chin jutted again. The victory pose. But the room, finally, wasn't hers. Daniel asked to speak to me alone, and Zoe did not protest. In the alley behind the bakery, dumpsters buzzed with fruit flies and truth. Daniel leaned against a mural of roses and said, I'm in deeper than she is. He confessed the high-interest loan, the second lender who demanded daily withdrawals, the credit card processed through a wash of shell accounts to dodge chargebacks. I signed guarantees, he said. Your steady was the only steady we knew. It landed without triumph. Consequences arrived fast. The PDA replaced Z&D with a union crew. A local mom group shared my slide deck. Zoe posted a notes app, clarification, and disabled comments. Lawyer Priya drafted a cease and desist, my DMs filled with screenshots of other borrowed photos. The price for me came, too. A smear account popped up on Facebook calling my croissants frozen Costco. A Yelp review claimed we had roaches. We passed a surprise health inspection with a perfect score. I taped the certificate to the window like a shield. Aunt Rosa made caldo and said, 1 pot for the body, 1 for the heart. I slept lightly, shoes by the door. The bakery line shortened for 3 days, then lengthened because people like receipts more than rumors when you show them. On Thursday night, the auditorium lights dimmed, and Zoe took the mic. The meeting was less dramatic than TV. It was better. The PDA president, a math teacher with kind eyes, read a statement. Z&D events withdrew. Deposits would be refunded by Friday. Our bakery would donate cookies at cost. Zoe tried to add context, but the treasurer cut in gently. We appreciate your contributions. This agenda is closed. Afterward, I stood in the hallway with Daniel while kids ran past us tearing raffle tickets. I'm getting help, he said, voice scratchy. GA meetings. A debt counselor. I nodded. Good, I said. Here are my boundaries. No direct contact. All communication about community gigs through email. And if you use my likeness again, I litigate. I wrote it down, printed it, and had him sign. Therapy helped me stitch up the quieter wounds. The humiliation echo, the habit of apologizing for standing still. I built SOPs for the business and for me. Crisis PR checklist, cease and desist template, a folder of receipts named Umbrella. With lawyer Priya, I filed a DMCA takedown on the stolen photos and won faster than rage would have. When Zoe texted a month later, "Can we talk?" I replied with a link to a mediator and a calendar window. We ended the conversation like human beings, but not friends. I chose calm power over reruns. A final message arrived from a stranger, and it changed the coda. The stranger was the photographer from the small claims suit, thanking me for turning on the lights. She wrote, "People like me stop chasing because embarrassment grows mold. You opened a window." I thought of college hallways, string lights at my wedding, the cul-de-sac fountain that never worked. I pictured the bakery at dawn, racks shining, floors drying, the smell of cinnamon climbing the air like hope with small feet. I am not the hero of this story. I am the person who learned procedures when feelings tried to drown her. My advice to anyone walking through betrayal is unglamorous. Document meticulously, write policies you can hand to your future self, and keep a circle that brings water, not gasoline. Chosen family matters. Boundaries matter. So does the quiet competence of showing up when nobody claps. 6 years ago, I lost my husband and my best friend like a match set fallen off a moving truck. Now, I keep what I carry on purpose. If our paths cross again, I will nod, maybe even wish them well from my side of the street. But the door to my kitchen stays locked at night, the lights on a timer, and the morning begins with flour on my hands and a key turning clean. Tomorrow's batch rises slowly, and I know exactly when to check.